She had not meant to sit there. That is the first thing she thinks as she perches on the edge of the lawn oak table in the Duke's study, skirts gathered just enough to keep them from brushing the ink-stained ledgers beneath her. The decision had been practical at first. There had been nowhere else to place the documents she carried, nowhere else to rest them without disturbing the careful order of the room. The second thing she realizes is that practicality no longer explains why she hasn't stood back up. The study is quiet the hour late. The keep has settled into its night rhythms. Distant doors closing, guards pacing the outer walls, the occasional crackle of a dying fire somewhere below. Here, the only light comes from the candelabra on the desk and the low fire burning in the hearth behind her. The Duke stands across the room, finishing a letter he should have stopped writing minutes ago. "You can leave the reports there," he says without looking up. "I know," she replies, and yet she does not move. She remains seated, hands resting lightly on the edge of the table, the polished wood cool beneath her palms. Her boots dangle just above the floor, an unimportant detail that suddenly feels far too noticeable. The Duke finishes the final line, sands the ink, and folds the parchment with careful precision. Only then does he look up. His gaze flicks first to the documents, then to her. He stills. She feels it immediately, the subtle shift in the room, the way the air tightens not with danger, but with awareness. "You're sitting very close," he says. "I needed the surface," she replies. "And now?" She hesitates. "Now I'm finished." "Yes," he agrees. Still, she does not stand. He sets the letter aside and steps around the desk, moving closer, not directly toward her, but at an angle, as though he's simply circling the table to reach the hearth. "You should go," he says. "I know." The words come easily. Action is not. He stops a few steps away, far enough to be proper, close enough to be felt. "You've been here longer than intended," he says. "Yes." "And you're tired?" "Yes." "And yet," he adds, "you chose to sit." The observation lands heavier than accusation would have. "I didn't choose," she says quietly. "You did," he replies. "Just not consciously." She exhales slowly, aware now of the way the edge of the table presses against the backs of her thighs, of how exposed the position is, how difficult it would be to dismount gracefully without drawing attention to the movement. "This isn't appropriate," she says. "No," he agrees. "It isn't. And you're not moving away." "No." The honesty steadies her even as it unsettles her. "You should tell me to stand," she says. "I could," he replies. "And you're not going to." "No." The fire pops softly in the hearth. Shadows ripple across the shelves lining the walls, dancing over leather-bound volumes and rolled maps. "You're blocking the space," she says. "Yes." "And you know that." "Yes." She shifts slightly on the table, an unconscious movement meant to ease the tension in her legs. The motion draws his attention immediately. "You're uncomfortable," he observes. "I'm feeling it." "You're not," he replies. "Your shoulders are tight. Your hands are gripping the table." She looks down then, surprised to find he's right. "You're very observant," she says. "It's my role," he replies. She scoffs softly. "You can't hide behind that." "I'm not hiding," he says. "I'm standing where you put me." The words settle into the space between them. "You could step back," she says. "I could, but you won't." "No." She lifts her gaze to his. "You're making this difficult." "Yes." "And you're aware of it." "Yes." He steps closer then, closing the distance by half. Not enough to touch her, but enough that his presence fills the space in front of her. The table behind her prevents retreat. The floor below offers no easy escape. She is not trapped, but she is contained. "You chose an edge," he says quietly. "I chose a table." "No," he replies. "You chose not to stand." Her pulse quickens. "This isn't what I came here for," she says. "No," he agrees. "But it's happening anyway." "Yes." She swallows. "You're not touching me," she says. "No." And yet this feels, she trails off, unwilling to finish the thought. "Intimate," he supplies. She bristles. "Don't put words in my mouth." "I'm clarifying what's already there," he replies. She exhales sharply. "You're very confident." "I'm very careful," he corrects. "And yet you step closer." "Yes." The candlelight catches the planes of his face, the steady calm of his expression. There is no hunger there, no arrogancy, only intent. You should tell me to move, he says. You should move on your own. I won't, he replies, unless you asked. The offer is clear, the boundary real. She studies him, weighing the moment. The table edge presses into her again as she shifts, reminding her of her position, of how easily she could resolve this by standing and stepping past him. She does not. You're still sitting, he observes. Yes. And you're not asking. No. His gaze drops briefly, not to her face, but to the space between them, to the way her knees angle outward slightly from the edge of the table. He stills. She notices immediately. Don't, she says softly. I haven't, he replies. But you're thinking about it. Yes. The admission sends a quiet shiver through her. You're very dangerous, she says. Yes. And you're doing this without force. Yes. She closes her eyes briefly, then opens them again, grounding herself. You step closer, she says. Yes. And now you're standing between my knees. The realization dawns slowly, then all at once. He had not advanced abruptly. He had aligned. Yes, he replies. And you didn't ask. No, but you didn't stop me either, he adds. She looks down then, seeing it clearly now. The way his position occupies the space her legs frame, the way the table behind her and his presence in front create a deliberate stillness. You shouldn't be there, she says. No, and yet you are. Yes. She grips the table edge again, then forces her hands to relax. This is crossing a line, she says. Yes. And you're not pretending it isn't. No. She inhales slowly, steadying herself. You could step back right now, she says. Yes. And you're choosing not to. Yes. The air between them feels heavier now, charged but controlled. You're very composed, she says. I don't rush what matters, he replies. And this matters. Yes. She searches his face for any sign of doubt. There is none. This won't end quietly, she says. No. And it won't be forgotten. No. The firelight flickers lower. You should leave, she says. I will, he replies. If you ask me to. She hesitates. That hesitation matters. I didn't come here for this, she says again. No, but you stayed. Yes. And now you're standing where you shouldn't. Yes. She draws a slow breath. She begins, then stops. He waits. Don't move, she says finally. He doesn't. The stillness deepens, thick with awareness. She feels it then. The way her body has gone quiet, the way the tension has settled into something sharper, more focused. You didn't sit accidentally, he says softly. No, and I didn't step here accidentally either. No, the truth hums between them. And now, he continues, we're both aware of exactly where we are. Yes. She nods once, the smallest movement. You step between my knees, she says. Yes. And you didn't ask. No, but you're waiting now. Yes. The waiting is the most dangerous part. And as she sits there on the edge of the table, with the Duke standing far too close and not touching her at all, she understands with sudden clarity. This was never about the documents. And whatever happens next will not be undone by a simply standing up. The waiting stretches. It does not break. That, she realizes, is deliberate. The Duke does not shift his weight. He does not glance away. He does not let the moment collapse into awkwardness or apology. He remains exactly where he is, between her knees, close enough that the warmth of him reaches her, far enough that nothing has been taken. You told me not to move, he says quietly. Yes, and you didn't explain why. I didn't need to, she replies. The fire sighs behind her, the sound low and steady. Candle wax drips slowly from the holder on the desk. Marking time, she is no longer measuring. You're still holding the table, he observes. She looks down in her hands, fingers curled tight against the edge of the wood. She loosens them deliberately, forcing herself to unclench. There, she says. Better. Yes, he agrees. But you're still braced. She lifts her gaze to his. You're very certain. I'm attentive, he corrects. And you're not pretending this is accidental. No, She shifts slightly on the table, testing the balance of her position. The movement is small, but the effect is immediate. His gaze flicks down for the briefest moment, then returns to her face. "You adjusted," he says. "Yes." "And you didn't step down?" "No." She inhales slowly, feeling the way the edge of the table presses into the backs of her thighs, anchoring her in place. "You can move back," she says. "I could," he agrees. "And you're not going to." "No." The certainty of it sends a quiet thrill through her. Not fear, not excitement exactly, but awareness sharpened to a fine point. "You're not touching me," she says. "No, but you're close enough that I feel it." "Yes." The honesty lands without softness. "This is inappropriate," she says. "Yes." "And you're continuing anyway." "Yes." She lets out a breath that is almost a laugh, though there's no humor in it. "You're very calm." "I don't rush what matters," he repeats. "And this matters." "Yes." She studies him for a long moment, searching for anything unsteady. She finds none. His restraint is not hesitation. It is control. "You're standing between my knees," she says again, as if naming it might lessen its weight. "Yes." "And you chose that position." "Yes." She lifts one foot slightly, testing the distance to the floor, the ease with which she could step down and end this. She does not. "You noticed," he says. "Yes." "And you didn't move away." "No." The fire pops softly, a spark lifting and settling. The study feels smaller now, the shells closing in, the shadows thickening. "You're waiting for me to say something," she says. "Yes." "What?" "That you understand what this is," he replies. Her pulse thuds, loud in her ears. "And what is it?" she asks. "It's the moment before choice becomes consequence," he says. "The point where we stop pretending posture is accidental." She swallows. "You make it sound final." "It is," he says, "in the sense that once it passes, it can't be undone." She nods slowly. "You're not asking me to step down," she says. "No." "And you're not stepping away." "No." "So what happens if I stay?" "Then we acknowledge it," he replies, "and we decide how to carry it." The words are steady, not seductive. "You're not offering secrecy," she says. "No." "And you're not offering escape." "No." She closes her eyes briefly, grounding herself in the sensation of the table beneath her, the heat of the fire at her back, the steady presence in front of her. "You didn't rush," she says. "No." "And you didn't crowd." "No." "But you didn't leave." "No." She opens her eyes again. "You're dangerous," she says softly. "Yes." "And you're doing this without force." "Yes." The pattern is unmistakable now. She draws a slow breath. "If I ask you to move," "I will," he says immediately. "And if I don't, then I won't." The balance steadies her more than any assurance could. She looks at his chest, then back up to his face. "You're very close," she says. "Yes." "And you could step closer." "Yes." "But you haven't." "No." She shifts again, this time deliberately, letting her knees angle a fraction wider. The movement is subtle, but unmistakable. He stills completely. "You changed the shape of the space," he says quietly. "Yes." "And you did it intentionally." "Yes." She meets his gaze, unflinching. "You're not trapped," he says. "No." "And neither am I." "No." The air between them tightens, not with urgency, but with recognition. "This will complicate things," she says. "Yes." "And people will notice." "Yes." "And you're not going to deny it." "No." She exhales slowly. "Good." He lifts one hand then, not toward her, but to rest against the edge of the table beside her hip. The contact is with the wood, not her. The gesture changes everything. "You didn't touch me," she says. "No." "But you claim the space." "Yes." The candlelight flickers across his knuckles, the line of his wrist. "You're very deliberate," she murmurs. "I don't take what isn't offered," he replies. "And what if I offer nothing?" "Then I take nothing." She studies his hand, the distance between it and her body measured in inches that feel suddenly monumental. "You're waiting," she says. "Yes." "For me to decide." "Yes." She lets the silence stretch, letting the weight of the moment settle fully. Outside, the keep shifts in size. Somewhere a door closes. Somewhere else, a guard laughs quietly before catching himself. The world continues. Here, time holds. You didn't ask me to sit, she says. No, but you noticed when I did. Yes. And you stepped closer. Yes. And now you're standing where leaving would be difficult. Yes. She lifts her chin slightly. You're not afraid of what this means. No. And you're not pretending it's small. No. She nods once, the decision settling. Then don't step back, she says. He doesn't. And don't pretend this didn't happen, she adds. I won't. The words land, heavy and complete. She lifts her hand from the table edge, resting them lightly on her lap. The movement frees her posture, changes the line of her body. You're no longer bracing, he observes. No. And you didn't step down. No. She looks at him, a faint, steady calm replacing the tension. This isn't about the table, she says. No. It's about being seen where we shouldn't be. Yes. And choosing not to retreat. Yes. He shifts then, not closer, not farther, aligning himself with her rather than blocking her. The subtle change alters the dynamic immediately. You're not closing me in, she says. No, you're standing with me. Yes. The fire burns lower, the room settling into a quieter warmth. You could leave now, she says. Yes. And you're not. No. She lets out a breath, slow and measured. Neither am I, she says. The admission settles, undeniable. He inclines his head slightly. Then we'll have to decide what comes next. She meets his gaze, steady. Tomorrow, she says. In the open. Yes. And tonight, he replies. We sit with the fact that something has shifted, and we don't rush to resolve it. She nods. I can accept that. He steps back then, just one pace, enough to give her room without undoing what's been acknowledged. You can stand if you want, he says. Yes, but you don't have to. No. She remains where she is, seated on the edge of the table, calm now rather than tense. You stepped between my knees, she says quietly. Yes. And you didn't ask. No. But you waited. Yes. The waiting, she realizes, is what made it impossible to pretend. And as the fire burns low and the study settles into stillness, she knows with certainty. This was no accident of proximity. It was a line crossed deliberately, and one that will demand daylight before it can be resolved. Warning does not undo what happened. That is the first thing she understands when she wakes. The keep moves as it always does, bells ringing the hour, servants crossing the courtyards with practiced efficiency, guards exchanging watch, but nothing has reset. Nothing is softened. If anything, the clarity of daylight sharpens what was left unresolved the night before. She dresses slowly, not because she is uncertain, but because she is deliberate. The gown she chooses is fitted, elegant, appropriate to her station. When she laces it, she does so carefully, not tightly. When she ties her hair back, she leaves a few strands loose at her temples. These are not concessions. They are acknowledgments. What happened in the study was not an accident of proximity or exhaustion. It was not something that could be blamed on the hour or the fire or the stillness of the room. It was a choice suspended mid-breath. And choices, once named, demand daylight. By the time she reaches the council chamber, others are already gathering. The air hums with low conversation, the scrape of chairs, the rustle of parchment. She takes her place at the table without hesitation. She does not search for him. She does not need to. When the Duke enters, the room adjusts around him as it always does, voices lowering, attention shifting. He does not look at her immediately. He does not need to. His awareness fills the space as surely as the light through the high windows. The meeting begins. She speaks when appropriate. She listens when needed. He does the same. To anyone watching, it is business as usual. But there are differences. He does not interrupt her. He does not speak over her. When a matter is raised that touches the estate she oversees, he turns to her first, not for approval, not for permission, but for insight. It is subtle. It is unmistakable. Others notice. By the time the council adjourns, the air feels changed, not charged but attentive. As the last of the advisors begin to rise, he speaks. Stay. The word is calm. Final. She does not move. The chamber empties quickly after that. Doors close. Footsteps fade. Silence settles, broken only by the low crackle of the fire. He does not come closer immediately. Instead, he steps away from the head of the table and stands opposite her, the distance between them measured and intentional. "You came," he says. "Yes, and you didn't avoid me." "No, and you didn't pretend last night didn't happen." "No." She lifts her chin slightly. "Nor did you." "No." The acknowledgement steadies something between them. "This changes things," she says. "Yes, and you're prepared for that." "I don't step where I'm not willing to stand," he replies. She studies him for a long moment. "You stepped between my knees," she says quietly. "Yes." "And you waited." "Yes." "That matters." "It was meant to." She exhales slowly. "People will talk." "Yes." "They already are." "Yes." "And you're not going to correct them." "No." "Nor exaggerate." "No." She nods once. "Good." He shifts then, just enough to align himself beside her rather than across. The movement is small, but it changes the shape of the space between them. "I won't place you in shadow," he says, "and I won't rush you in a spectacle." "I wouldn't accept either," she replies. "I know." The firelight warms the stone beneath their feet. "What happens next?" she asks. "We continue," he says, deliberately, in the open. "Yes." And without pretending this is smaller than it is. "Yes." She considers that. "You didn't take advantage," she says. "No." "And you didn't retreat." "No." "You held the moment exactly where it was." "Yes." The memory rises unbidden. The stillness, the table edge, the weight of his presence without touch. "That restraint matters," she says. "It will continue to." She believes him. Later, as the day unfolds, the consequences ripple outward. They walk the inner courtyard together, not alone, not hidden. He does not offer his arm. She does not reach for it. Their proximity speaks for itself. A visiting lord watches too closely. A steward hesitates before addressing her, then bows deeper than before. A servant looks away too quickly. She does not shrink from it, nor does he step in front of her. They move as two people who have agreed not to pretend. By evening, the keep is settled again. The sky darkens beyond the towers, the first stars appearing faintly. She returns to the study alone. The table is still there. The chair remains where it was. The room smells faintly of smoke and parchment and old wood. She runs her fingers once along the edge of the table, then straightens. When the Duke enters, she does not turn immediately. "You didn't summon me," she says. "No, but you came." "Yes." She faces him then. "This isn't where things end," she says. "No, but it's where they become clear." "Yes." He stops a careful distance away, not closing the space, not widening it. "You sat here last night," he says. "Yes." "And I stood where I shouldn't have." "Yes." "And neither of us pretended it was nothing." "No." She meets his gaze steadily. "You didn't touch me," she says. "No." "But you didn't move away." "No." She nods once. "And today you didn't hide." "No." "Nor did I." The fire crackles softly. "This won't be simple," she says. "No." "And it won't be without cost." "No." She steps closer, not into him, not retreating, until the space between them feels intentional rather than charged. "You stepped between my knees," she says again, not accusing, not teasing. "Yes." "And that meant something." "Yes." "And now," she continues, "we decide what it becomes." He inclines his head slightly. Together. She lets out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "I don't want this to be hurried," she says. "It won't be, and I don't want it hidden." "It won't be, and I don't want it to belong to rumor rather than truth." "It won't." She studies him for a long moment, then nods. Good. He does not reach for her. Neither does she. The restraint feels different now, not tense but settled. "You can sit if you wish," he says. "Yes." "But you don't have to." "No." She remains standing. "So do you." He does. They stand facing one another in the quiet of the study, the fire low, the night settled around the keep. "You stood between my knees," she says one last time. "Yes." "And you didn't ask." "No." "But you waited." "Yes." The waiting, she realizes, was the choice. And I didn't stand, she says. No, but you could have. Yes. And you didn't. No. The understanding rests between them, complete. This doesn't end with a moment, she says. No, he agrees. It begins with one. Outside, the keep breathes quietly, unaware and watchful all at once. She turns toward the door, then pauses. This won't be undone by standing up, she says. No, and it won't be forgotten. No. She opens the door and steps into the corridor, posture composed, steps steady. Behind her, the study remains unchanged. But what was decided there will carry forward. Into counsels, into glances held a moment longer than necessary, into choices made without apology. Because she sat on the edge of the table, the Duke stepped between her knees, and neither of them pretended it was accidental.